had a website, but it wasn't, it was almost like a vanity project back then. Now it is like an entrance fee to have a business.
Good. Hey, I wanted to let you know that the Google guarantee, the Google ads, man, I'm getting 12 to 16 calls a week.
My goal is at least do 10 to 15 more years, grow it up, sell it for 40, 50 million, maybe more.
Today is February 10th, 2023, and my guest is Dustin Boone. Dustin is the solo owner and operator of DB's Lawn Care, a leading landscaping company serving West Hampton, New Jersey, and surrounding areas. Dustin has the unique distinction of having a job outside of landscaping as well. He works full-time at a correctional facility in New Jersey. I can't wait to dig in to hear how you manage it all. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Dustin, welcome to Titan Talks.
No, welcome to be here. Thank you, Jonathan. I really appreciate it.
To kick things off, I mentioned in the intro you have a job outside of landscaping. Tell me about the origin of DB's Lawn Care. How'd you decide to get started?
Well, it's kind of simple. About 2 years ago, it was like 2021. I was in the middle of COVID. I got, we were looking at taking our family to Disney. We were just coming out of it and decided to just kind of cut some lawns. We started in April, so it was like 2 months into the season, which was kind of rough. So I decided to, just cut a couple grass a little bit here on the side, just make a little bit of money. And before I knew it, living in my town for 29 years, just the word of mouth of me helping out people and just, going over on the weekends and cutting grass and just trying to save some money. And I told everybody I was trying to go to Disney, just take the kids and have a good time. And before I knew it, I had, 3-4 days, full days of work already. So within the first year, even though that I started so late into the season. So
First year of work, you had 3 full days of work every week. Is that right?
yeah. Yeah. So I worked 40 hours in corrections, and my first year we were filling up about another 20 to 30 hours a week on top of it. So it took off pretty quick, and it was a shocking. My wife worked full time as a nurse overnights, and it was kind of rough because I kind of had to sit down with her and tell her, hey, what do you want me to do? Are you okay with me going forward with this? And kind of follow my passion. I always had a thing for cutting grass and just take care of my lawn. And we had to talk about it, and she decided to work a couple of days a week instead of night shift, and she could stay home, watch the kids, and I'll be out there working, and then before I knew it, my schedule was turning to 70, 80 hours a week. So it was great.
Do you have any time for other activities or hobbies these days, or is it all landscaping outside of the full-time role?
Well, I take off the winter. So I stay, busy in the spring, summer, and fall. I have Sunday mornings. It's just for me. I play softball, bunch of buddies, a bunch of coworkers. And at that point, it's just those are my days, Sunday mornings, and then Sunday afternoons, always with the family. But with having your own business is you have to take on everything. It's not just going out there and doing the work. It's doing estimates and maintenance and scheduling, and it keeps on going. And how you're going to grow, doing the paperwork and the books and payroll. So it's just so much. It never ends. You could work as much as you want in this career.
So you said the busy period is spring, summer, fall, which means we're coming up on the season. Yeah. What are you doing to get ready for it?
So what we decided this year was to pretty much get the ball moving in the first week of February. So this time we got all of our mailers out, all of our posts. We have a billboard that we just put up, a couple advertisements in the diners. We're doing an incentive program this year for anybody that can sign up, other friends, family members that live in the area, in the towns we serve. We're giving them a discount, so we're just building and getting our name out there, and just going out there and spending time and meeting people and shaking hands and just doing things and you just talking to the right people and helping everybody out. Who moved, who hasn't moved, who's around, who needs help this year, who doesn't like who they have. So you just kind of going out there and networking as much as you can and just get to see what the feel is for the environment, especially with with inflation nowadays, a lot of people, some people want to cut their own grass. Some people honestly can't. And those are the people I've been helping out.
Yep.
Because mostly when I started this was just to help people. And it was just a couple neighborhood people that were, senior citizens, stuff like that, that just get out there. And then unfortunately, I saw a lot of people getting taken advantage, the elderly in the
Wow.
neighborhood. And I was finding out that these people were charging them an arm and a leg, not doing the right work. I actually just found a story that one of the clients I have, she has a fertilizer company, and she actually caught one of the employees breaking into her house at 2 o'clock in the morning. hmm
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so it was the second time he broke in the house. First time he broke in, took everything out of her refrigerator, like a deep freezer, all the steaks, and then the second time he came back was in the middle of the night. So
Wow.
it's crazy. So that's, you get kind of like having that law enforcement background. Definitely wanted to, push to help people. I don't want people that have bad backgrounds or shady characters that are going to be in the neighborhood doing these services, and people have to trust them, and they don't have anything to fall back on.
What's been the most surprising thing about this customer acquisition effort? You said lots of mailers, little word of mouth. What didn't you expect to work that's had great returns?
Well, to be honest with you, I had a lot of doubts about having a website. I just thought like people are going to visit it. It's not really going to take off as I thought it was going to be. And working with Nick with Top Line, obviously,
Yeah.
he was great. I mean, he set it up with the point that he taught me so much just to how to push in on Google and how to stay on top of your website and how to constantly renew stuff, photos and reviews, and just getting out there and what you can do that makes you get seen more by everybody else in your neighborhood. So that was something I really didn't expect to happen. A lot of like advertisements I put actually haven't really worked out as much as I thought. I mean, I'm only getting about a 5% return, sometimes even 3% on advertisements.
And are those Google advertisements or yard signs, or what are you
It's a
talking about
mixture.
there?
Like I do advertisements at a local swim club, local baseball, softball, recreational for the kids. I do one sports complex, a couple diners, stuff like that. And
Wow.
it's just, I don't really have the feedback return from that than I do with people going on Google and my website, surprising, and word of mouth. It's huge.
I talked to all kinds of landscapers, painters, plumbers. It's amazing how effective having a strong Google presence is, and a website to boot. It's very rarely, a bad investment, at least among those that I talk to. And good to hear that you've had a good experience so far. I checked out your Google profile, 5 stars all the way. Facebook looked really professional. Some of the best images that I'd seen, and yeah, it looks for a part-time thing, it looks like you're doing just a fantastic job. So.
Yeah, I was really shocked about how far I was going to come because, like I said, I never really thought of Facebook or the Facebook page was a big thing. I didn't think the website was going to be. I was just like just especially a part-time business when I'm only running 4 or 5 days a week. Well, I say part-time 4 or 5 days a week, but yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that important, and it was shocking, to be honest with you. And a lot of reviews that I got so far were built up over the last 3 years. I mean, it's not a lot, but they're natural reviews of people coming in and doing it. It's not like I'm pushing people for these, so which is good. So, but this year, I think we're going to do is talk to Nick, and what we're going to do is any kind of work we're going to do, we're going to ask the clients, how do you honestly feel about it? What can we do to change? What can we do to do things better, worse?
Yep.
And just get that feedback, and you could build better and help out more.
As you think about the transition from, maybe currently it's a part-time thing to maybe in the future being a full-time thing, what sort of metrics are you looking at to gauge your readiness for the next step?
So I always keep training and keep adapting and keep doing things better. With 15 years in corrections, you always have to adapt and do the next thing, and just kind of put the effort and the training into yourself. And if you build yourself up right, then you can keep going. And that's my thing here is I went out this winter and got a fertilizer license, and then I'm going to keep building. I'm going to get my pesticide license. I'm going to keep on buying equipment, and then I have 10 years left in my corrections. I'm going to be 45 years old, so I'm still going to be young, and I'm not going to be the one to go out there and go find another job and just, work for somebody. Now I kind of spoiled myself of how I like to work and how I like things done. So as long as I can get this established in the next 10 years, which is plenty of time to get this business really going, and then I'll take this full time, and then hopefully pass something off. If it's not even a business, just education to not only my kids, but my nieces and nephews.
That's wonderful, Dustin.
Yeah.
Do you have goals 10 years out?
I haven't really thought about it yet, but at the point now, I mean, a lot of people are between, do you keep growing and get bigger and bigger and bigger, or do you just stay small? And I kind of on the fence. I'm going to see how it plays out this year. This year's going to be kind of our figure out how much we're going to grow. What do I feel comfortable working 5 days a week and then getting extra crews and keep building and building? Like, what's a stopping point? We'll see how it goes for this year, but not yet.
So you mentioned learning, you mentioned the training and the licensing necessary to be a landscaper in New Jersey. Could you go into that a little bit more? What does it take specifically in order to do fertilizing or pesticides in New Jersey? What was that process like?
New Jersey's got a really a strict policy about fertilizers and pesticides, and I actually wasn't really big into it. I was like, I don't know why it's so big, but once I started diving into it a little more and learning that how much of an impact improper fertilization can really do, especially the waterways. I mean, if you don't treat fertilization correctly within the right area or too much, I mean, you could cause different kinds of things in the water and grow algae, and it can kill fish. And it's so bad for phosphorus and nitrogen to get in those systems if it's freshwater, saltwater. So there's a lot of learning to do. I love the environment. I love nature. So, I mean, it's something I really would take, kind of personal, that I don't want to see somebody else do this job and not have the proper licensing. And because if you do it wrong, I mean, you could cause so much damage. And then pesticides too. I mean, you're talking that, you're going to need all these chemicals that you deal with. What happens if you have a spill? What are you actually killing? You have to know what you're putting down, because there's so many people in this industry, and we call chucks in a truck, that just get a lawnmower, get fertilizer from the local big box store, and they just spray it, not knowing what they're doing. And if you do it wrong, I mean, it could have some serious damages.
I was going to ask about that. What are the clearly damages to the earth, damages to the local community? Are there legal repercussions? What happens to the guys who go out there and mess around?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you get caught without a license doing what you're doing, I mean, you're starting off fines $1,000. For an instance, we had a situation like that, not near me, but it was a couple miles away, and someone put fertilizer down near a pond, and they ended up growing algae in there, and it killed all the fish, and it ended up they came out and the New Jersey, and they said, hey, look, you killed these fish in here, you have fines. They had to clean out the whole algae you built in there. They had to restock the fine. It's something you really don't want to mess with.
Zooming out a bit, thinking about the industry as a whole, I know you're still in the early days, but how have you maybe seen it change even in just 3 years? What are some shifts that you could highlight?
Oh man, just with growing in general. When I first started this, I didn't think I really had anything going on. I think I was just like here to help people, do what I can do to, make a couple of bucks on the side. And then I would run these big companies that are, multi-million-dollar companies and equipment throughout the wazoo, and multiple trucks and crews and yada, yada, yada. But I didn't think I had that, and I didn't think I can be able to do it. So what I did was I went out and took all my savings, like $40,000. And what I did was I bought, I already had a truck, so I just bought a secondary truck, a trailer, all the equipment I have. And I had a lot of people reach out to me, these major companies, and they said, well, what are you doing with this equipment? This is a $12,000 piece of equipment. How many clients you have? I'm like, I got 7. And they're like, well, that's the dumbest thing ever. And I said, well, just hold on, give me a minute, give me a year. And now I paid that machine off in like a few months. So, I went into it investing so much in myself, saying, let me give myself a shot and see where I can do with it. And I had a lot of doubters, in my town. So it's good to kind of push through. And now people are starting to really kind of get on and talk to me about stuff. People call me, I feel like every day. And even if it's not like work, they're saying, hey, look, we're putting jerseys together for, the flag football team that just came out this week for a neighborhood. Hey, we're looking for a sponsor, $75 per town or per team. You want to do it? I'm like, okay, fine. How many teams you got? Let's do it. And just stuff like that, just to get these kids, these advertisements, and it pays for the shirts and stuff like that. So yeah, sure. Let's get it going,
Gosh, so you're cutting the lawns and helping the community. That's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your setup, what is it like? You have the trailer. I imagine you have all kinds of equipment. Where do you keep it, and what all do you have?
Oh man, so it's funny. So when I first started, I had a push mower. Like that's it. And I just push mowed everything. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then my neighbor was like, he had like a rider, like this basic riding thing. It was old as can be. It barely even worked, the hydros, and he's like, just take it and then just cut grass, whatever you want to do. So I did that, and I was like, man, I just don't like the professional image it had. So then I went out, bought 2 used machines. It was like $5,000, and then and I ran with that for a little bit, and then I just kind of saved my money, and I was like, you know what, these things, I just don't trust them, I don't rely on them. So I went out and bought a 52-inch machine, which was like 12,000, another 36-inch machine that was a little less than 10, and then I bought a big aerator. And then once I got my first big mower, I had this trailer, this open trailer, and like the welds are coming off the sides, the gate. It was just like a mess. And I looked at it, and I had a picture of it, and I keep it on my phone, just like say, this is where I started, and I had no idea what I was doing. And then once I took a little more education and learned from different guys that started the business that were, really helpful. And like I said, invest myself. And I was like, all right, let me go buy a trailer. Let me buy an enclosed trailer. Let me go decal it up and make it look good and advertise on there. And then, like I said, then I bought a second truck, and it just keeps on building from there.
You mentioned how you went against the winds of the community advice in the early days. I think we have a number of listeners who are pros thinking about starting out on their own, starting their own companies. What advice would you offer to them? People, just thinking about getting going.
So I would say is you're gonna have to understand that when you jump into business as a business owner, you everything's on your shoulders. You're gonna have to do everything, and I get it. You can't grow too fast, but you want to grow fast enough where you don't fail yourself. So, and I was on the verge that a lot of people thought I was gonna fail, and I said, you know what? I saw it as motivation. So starting out, you're going to realize that you're going to have all these things coming over that you're not even going to think of. Just like I asked for a guy to help, and then I was like, well, man, I need workman's comp now. I need to pay a payroll. I got to do 1099 on this guy, and it snowballs so much. You think you can do something real small. And I had a lot of guys say, well, are you going to go this legal route or the illegal route? I said, well, I'm just going to do the legal route. I mean, I have too much to lose with my full-time job. So, and that's the way I started. But just know what your value is and your worth, and whatever it is, stick to it. I mean, I have a guy that his prices are so high in my neighborhood. He just does fertilizer, and he helped me out in the beginning. And I told him, I was like, I don't know why you charge this much. He said, well, because I have the clients and I'm good with it. And that's what opened the door for me. And I was like, well, I'm not going to undercut you, but I am, because in the end, like, he doesn't cut, so I can come in underneath him. But I knew my worth. And then you have a lot of people on that your clients or potential clients that you might get 50 of them out of all your invoices. And you're like, why is everybody coming to me? And then you look, your prices are so low. And then you're like, all right, that doesn't work. And then you have to figure out what your worth is and what you need to get paid without overcharging client and then undercharging yourself. So that is something you have to really learn. And I learned that the hard way once or twice.
I want to dig into that a bit. So how do you go about determining your worth, especially just starting out? With pricing, how do you choose?
Okay, so the way I started out was the first time I ever priced, I actually reached out to my neighbor. They had a lawn care business, and they've been cutting the grass for like 10 years. So I actually asked her what she pays per week or biweekly, whatever it was. the time. And then I asked him, I was like, hey, how's this work out? And he's like, well, I'll help you a little bit, but I'm not really trying. This is my area. And so he gave me his price and he said, they should be a little bit higher. And this is a corner lot. And then the bigger backyard. I can only get my small machine back there. So I looked into it more and I found a lot of guys online that would kind of break down pricing and how to do it. And they really helped out a lot of stars, which was good. But what I figured out is I just pretty much took the time in the wintertime after my first year. And I said, well, this lawn takes this long. This is how much I'm going to need in fuel for the day. This is how much, how many miles I put my truck, what the maintenance is. I broke everything down down almost, I feel like, to the penny about how much each was. And so I could give my price every time. And this is what it is. So where I can give discounts to, where I can't give discounts to. And a lot of lawn care businesses actually don't give discounts, surprising or not.
Wow.
And then the one thing is I saw my competitors in the area, and I knew who was what. And I knew, you have one guy cuts the grass, but he's got a bad track record. Like I said, I had an incident with a break-in with a client, and just the class of people. And I had explained to people that with my business, we're all law enforcement or we're all military personnel. That's all we hire. We don't hire anybody off the street. There's a bad problem right now with drugs out there. So I mean, like, I don't want to be biased when I'm hiring anybody like that, but I know if I hire better people, if I hire young military personnel or law enforcement, they're going to come out with a certain presence. They're going to come out, cleaned up that day. They're going to have a nice shirt on. They're going to not have stains in their pants, and they're going to work, and I pay them for it. And I pay them very well, more than any other person around here. And I take a lot of pride in that. So I have to explain that to a lot of my clients. Like, look, you're not getting that chuck in the truck. You're getting somebody with a good background, secure background. You can run background checks on all of us if you wanted to. And that people love that. They rather have someone they can trust on their property.
Well, I know you're just starting out, but you have incredible passion, and from what I'm hearing, competence as well. You're a master operator, and sounds like you're off to a hot start. So congratulations. Do you mind, Dustin, if we close with a rapid fire round, just a boom, boom, boom series of questions?
Yeah, good.
What was your first ever job?
Oh man. So it's funny. My first ever job I had, lady called me up, and it was, she's like, look, I work for the township. And I'm like, can you come on over and do this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I come up to the house, look at it. No idea what I was doing. I'm like, hey, yeah, $45, whatever, cut your grass. And then this is like before I barely had anything set up. I go over, I cut the grass. I spent like 45 minutes there, normally like a 20-minute job, just doing everything perfect. And she comes out and she's like, well, I like what you did. Yeah. And she's like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, no idea. She's like, well, I'm the mayor. And I'm like, well, that's great. So, and I didn't even know. My first time ever cutting was the mayor of my town. And I just moved back to my town like probably 3 years ago. And I really didn't know who people were yet. And yes, that was a trip. I was like, well, if you would have told me before, I probably would have never came out.
I was asking about your first ever job maybe 30 years ago, but that is an even better story.
Yeah,
I love that.
Oh yeah.
No, that's great.
Oh man, no, my first ever job I ever worked was Burger King. I was I think 14 I could start working then. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
14.
Yeah, I was 14. It was like a week or two after my 14th birthday, I got a job. And they're like, okay, you can work 6 hours on Saturday and 6 hours on Sunday, and that's it. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I started really young working. I loved it ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you've made as a landscaper?
Yeah. So I undercut myself so bad on this job. So I had a job. Guy wanted stone in the back. He wanted mulch. He wanted weed mats down, and he wanted all these flowers and edging. It was a pretty big project. So I'm like, all right, we could do this. We could do this in like a day, maybe a day and a half. Man, so I ended up getting these guys out, and we get on the job, and we're knocking it out, and then we got everything edged out, cleaned up the first day. And by the time I look at it, the sun's going down. I'm like, all right, well, we got half a day. We still got the stone to put in. We have the weed mat to put down, and we actually had an area we had to take stone out. So I'm like, all right. So the next day we're working all day, and I have a range. So I had 10 hours for this job, and then we pushed to 15. 15 is like the point where it's no more. I can't do anything else. we hit 15 hours and this job wasn't done yet. So we had the mulch done, we had everything kind of like,
Dustin, this is all in the course of one day, 15 hours?
I had 15 hours over 2 days
2 days, got it.
for the guys that I had. So 15 hours, it shouldn't take anything over 15 hours. I was going to be in that danger zone of breaking even or losing money. So that day goes by and we're pretty much like wrapping up. And then at the point that my guys were so beat and moving the stone by hand, I went out the next day and I said, all right, you guys are done. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I ended up getting a machine and came back on a third day and did the rest of the job. So I ended up sitting down with the guy at the end and he was super happy with the job. Super happy. He couldn't have been happier. And I was like, look, I'll be honest with you. Like this job cost me money. I paid all my guys and materials to do this job. So like, at least I can make it look nice. And I had no idea what I was doing that first year. And I learned big time. That was a big sting right there.
I'm curious, has he had you back? Any other jobs with him?
Actually, he moved out of the town. So yeah, he moved
man.
probably 30 minutes away, but he did reach out and he did ask about it. He's like, hey, you think you come on out here? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, you know, I would have, but it's too far at this point. I'm growing too much to be like, you know, 35 minutes to get this guy's house to do, you know, cutting. It's just, it's unethical at this point.
Yeah. Maybe it's the story you just told me, but tell me about the job you're most proud of.
Oh man. Let's see. It was a couple. I mean, I did a couple jobs. I had a lady that was around the corner and she was one of my first clients, maybe like first 10, 15 clients. And it was her and then her husband, and he was in a wheelchair. She was very not mobile at all. It was just terrible. And she called me up and was asking me to help her out with just doing cutting and all this other stuff. And then it was just so overgrown, it was bad. She had maybe like 30 or 40 bags of mulch in her backyard. And I just asked her, I was like, look, you know, do you mind if I do this for you? And she's like, well, no, you know, I really can't afford it, yada, yada. So we just came in. I asked my guys, like, hey, can you just spend like 3 hours with me on this? I'm paying you. Don't matter. Don't worry about it. Let's just clean it up and do it. And we ended up coming out there. I thought I was going to use that mulch that she had, but it ended up being all rotten from sitting in the sun and faded. I was like, all right. So I just ordered the mulch, whatever. So that was pretty good. That was probably one of the best jobs I did, just because the satisfaction of them coming out in that condition and just being so thankful for it was great. I mean, I don't want to like toot my horn or anything like that, but they end up, you know, following me anytime I post on Facebook. They're always commenting and say thank you, and they have good reviews, and they tell their neighbors, and you know, just stuff like that. Giving back, that's what means a lot to me, because in this job, you can make as much as you want to work. So you know, you fill your schedule up, you can do really well, but you got to learn to give back in the community. You know what I mean? I grew up here. I'm 30 years in this town. I was out for a couple of years. I was out for about 5 years. But I mean, you know, a lot of these people here are the original owners. So I try to take care of what I can. And they saw me as a kid growing up here. And another one was just doing, I have a township pool 5 houses down from me. You know, they had this guy cutting grass for 20 some years, and he was a nice guy. But I just went in there. I was like, look, whatever they're charging you, like, I'll come down and I'll take care of it. And I do that for pennies on the dollar. And it's just, it takes me and 2 other guys like 45 minutes, but they're so happy with it. And it's just, and so they ended up putting an advertisement on their sign out front one time, just saying like, thank you for the good year. And I was like,
Oh,
you know,
that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just stuff like that. I appreciate that the most. Mm-hmm.
I think your answer just there speaks to it. You mentioned Disney in the very beginning of this. What's your goal, Dustin? Why are you doing all this?
Like I said, I want to just pass something off to my kids. I'm 35 now, and when I grew up, everybody in my generation was, hey, go to college, go to college, go to college. Well, sometimes you really don't. I mean, if you have a drive and are willing to work. Now, I went to college. I didn't finish, but and I don't need another job. I don't need a business. But to give my wife the life of her working just 2 days a week and spending the time with my kids, let them grow up, that's priceless to me. And then it's hard on me because I'm away from them all the time. But when we do spend time, it's so valuable. And like the things we're going to do, I mean, it's endless. So we could, we want to go to Delaware this weekend. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go down there and spend time with them. So the goals is pretty much to build the business up, maybe to get some more real estate property, just teach my kids the value of working and how important it is. And because you're going to work for 30, 40 years in your life, you might as well love what you're doing. So and it's kind of hard because you have a corrections background where you don't get any job satisfaction at it whatsoever. And then you have like lawn care where you're like, you get there and then let's say the day's done and you drive by again and you're like, yeah, that's the house I just cut, So like that job satisfaction helps out to balance out with corrections. So just want to show my kids, how important it really is to love what you do.
Such a compelling story. Thank you so much for this, Dustin. It's been a treat to get to talk to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's been great.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.